You are listening to the How to Talk to Girls podcast with me, Tripp Kramer. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the How to Talk to Girls podcast. I'm your host, Tripp Kramer from trippadvice.com. And usually when I do interviews, it's usually me interviewing other guests. But today I have an episode with an interview with me, an interview that I did with Jared Bull over at Transformational Coaching. It was a live interview on YouTube that we did, and he was kind enough to send me over the audio so I can get it over to you so you can hear about some of my thoughts on attracting women, how attraction works, failure in terms of what happens when you're just not seeing results. Where do you go from there? So I give all of my thoughts on that and a little bit about my background too. So if you don't know about my background, you're going to hear about it a little bit more on this interview with Jared. And I think that you're really going to enjoy it because I go into some things that might be helping you if you're feeling stuck when it comes to attraction. Now, I know this interview is coming out at a time when we're not necessarily going out and meeting a lot of women due to what is going on in the world today, but it's still going to be good information for you for when you actually do go out and start meeting women. And also, it's going to be very important for you right now because you still might be meeting women online and it all connects because attraction works the same way. So you're really going to enjoy what I have to say in this interview. And also, if you feel right now that you are stuck and you're not sure where to go from here because of what's happening in the world and the fact that we're quarantined and we can't leave, or maybe you're listening to this at a time when you're able to go out and the world is fine now, but you're still feeling very stuck, I want you to go to coachedbytripp.com where you can apply for coaching. You see, coaching is a way for you to get faster results. A lot of guys don't realize that there is this thing called coaching available in this realm of dating and attraction. But yes, it exists. And I've been doing it for almost 10 years now, helping guys get to the place where they're meeting more women, where they are being able to attract the kinds of women they want and not having to settle, understanding how conversation works and understanding how to get women invested in you so that you don't have to go through this life just going for the women that you think you can get, but actually go for the women that you really want. So go to coachedbytripp.com today to apply. The application takes about 5-6 minutes to just fill out. And then you and I will hop on a phone call and talk more about coaching and see if it's a good fit for you. And yes, you'll be hopping on a phone call with me personally because I'm going to be the one who's going to be coaching you through this process. So if you want quicker results, if you're feeling like you're stuck, check it out. In the meantime, here's my interview where I'm interviewed by Jared Bull from Transformational Coaching. Check it out. I think you're going to like it.
Hey, everyone. It's good to see you guys. I'm really excited. I have a special guest here today. His name is Tripp Kramer. He's an internationally known dating coach and founder of Tripp Advice, a men's dating advice company. He's also the creator of the popular YouTube channel Tripp Advice, which teaches men how to become more attractive to women. And he has a weekly podcast entitled How to Talk to Girls. And he currently resides in Chicago, Illinois, where my family's originally hometown is from. Thanks for coming, Tripp. I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Love doing live shows. This is fantastic.
Yeah, live streams are the way to go, man. It's fun. So I'm just curious, man, because I came from the kind of PUA community years ago, and it was definitely really helpful in terms of my own evolution as a man. I felt like it was like a rite of passage for me. I just wanted to get your perspective on, I guess, like how you got into this world, the work that you're doing now, and what do you think it does for men?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's funny you say rite of passage. I think we didn't have a choice. I mean, I have, guys who discover me first before anything else. But when I was, digging into this, that's all that was available really. Mm-hmm. is all that information, the PUA stuff. So in a weird way, it is kind of like a rite of passage, but it's just because that's all that was there,
Right.
No, but so what was the question exactly?
Like what do you think what you do and how you teach men, like what do you think that's really about? Like what does that do for men? I know for me it was I felt like it was a rite of passage. It like gave me confidence knowing that I could go anywhere, talk to any girl fearlessly. It just was a really cool feeling to know that I could do that.
Yeah.
But then like once I was able to do it, I was like, all right, cool. Like I can do it now. What's the next thing? But like
Yeah.
it's
The
like
next thing is always starting a business.
yeah, I totally agree. That's
That's
exactly
what
how it
happens
went.
to people who get really into this stuff. They're like, well, I accomplished that. What are the other parts of my life? It's either that or they simultaneously are working on looking better. So it's like working out or
Mhm.
losing weight or things like that. It's kind of like it's a weird unknown backdoor route into personal development where
Mhm.
you'll dig into that, and it's such a challenge that if you, or I should say, when you accomplish it, you're just like, yeah, okay, that was fun. I feel good. Like I want to keep this train going in terms of being the best me and having an awesome life. So it
Mhm.
usually ends up translating to doing something with business, entrepreneurship, or working out, things like that, or just general personal development, building morning routines. People are obsessed with morning routines and
Yeah.
productivity and all that stuff. So
Well, I always, whenever people ask me, like, what do you think I should do for more personal development? That's like my first answer is like, go start a business. You will constantly be forced to develop and innovate if that's what you want your life
yeah,
to be about.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, Tripp, what do you do exactly now? I know you're still helping men get into relationships and really create, but I mean, ultimately, I see that you're doing something on a deeper level, which is, from my perspective, it seems like you're equipping men to feel more confident in themselves and go after more of whatever it is that they want in their life. Like that's what I see on the deeper level. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, definitely. I think that if you work on yourself, the you'll reap the rewards.
Mm.
Is if there's a lot of stuff out there. It's funny. I just saw an ad. It was another dating coach doing an advertisement for their their program. They're basically their full program. And I saw that and I was like, and I get what they're doing. It's marketing, but they were basically giving the guys, and it was a great like technique to use in terms of getting a woman interested in you, and just talking about like something you can say that can make the girl think that you're high status. It's not like a lie. It's just like a way of speaking to her that makes her think like, oh, you might be an attractive guy. And I was thinking, I was watching, I was like, that's a really good technique. It's something that even I would teach, but that won't do it all.
Right.
It just won't. It's something so small. It won't transform you, which means you can say that line or you can say the thing, but that's not really going to take you that far because eventually you're going to meet up with the girl and she's going to see that you're not confident, low self-esteem, you don't
Right.
really have your life together, you're not a very high value guy. Like she'll see that. So all that stuff is great, that can work, and you can use that stuff, but you better be backing it up with you being a person who's of quality. It's like the same thing as like a girl
Mm.
putting on makeup, and she puts on so much that the next day you're like, wait a minute, so you had a push-up bra, fake eyelashes, drawn in eyebrows, and whatever. It's like, oh, okay, that's who you really are. It's like, okay, so that stuff works. I'm not saying women shouldn't wear makeup, and I'm not saying guys shouldn't use some of these lines sometimes, but
Right.
you better back it up with something.
Right. Well, I love that because it really, just like in anything, whether it's sales, whether it's relationships, it's a technique is just the first step. Eventually, we want to own the technique, integrate it into our presence, and be that. And like
Right.
I think like that's ultimately anything that's truly transformational. if it remains at the technique level, then it's not actually transformational. The whole purpose of the technique is, or like a sales script, is to kind of get you into it. And then once it becomes a part of you, then it's just a part of you and you own it. And then it's in your presence. And I think that's really the conversation or distinction we're having right now.
Here's another good analogy. Let's imagine you have a leak somewhere, like in a faucet. Okay. And so let's say you have a piece of gum. You chew some gum and you put the gum on there and it works. Wow, it worked. You put the gum on the hole and it's not leaking anymore. It works now and it worked in the present moment. And it might even work for a little while. The gum might stick on there and it might do its job, but eventually the gum's going to wear down and it's going to burst, and it's not a real fix. It's a quick fix. Right? So while those things work, they're not sustainable for the long term. So you'd have to actually go out and get a new pipe to fix the leak, right? So the same thing with you is you need to figure out what you need to do to fix the parts of you to actually be an attractive guy. And the good news is when you work on that stuff, your life becomes better anyway. You're killing two birds with one stone. You're just becoming this optimal version of you. When I say that, I don't mean attractive necessarily physically, although it's interesting. I was just talking to I literally just got off a coaching call with a client, and we were talking about some of these things. And I told him, I said, listen, in order to be an attractive person, it takes, and I talk about this in my book, inner qualities and outer qualities. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what you're doing is you're going to optimize your outer qualities. That's one part. And then the inner qualities you're always going to be working on. Okay. Mm-hmm. So here, let me dive a little bit deeper into that. So outer qualities is your looks, so to speak, and some other things like maybe your lifestyle, your job. But let's just focus on looks for a second. So there's only so much you could do with your looks, right? You can work on what you wear, your haircut, your facial hair, maybe whether you wear glasses or not wear glasses, and then working out. That's pretty much it. So some of those are quick, like, okay, cool, new style, buy a new wardrobe, pretty easy. Contacts or not, haircut, like all that stuff you can get it done in a weekend if you wanted to. And then of course, if you want to work on either losing weight or gaining weight, that's going to take a little bit longer. But that's all you could do. Great. So optimize that part. So you look your most attractive you could be. And then the rest of it, I would say like the other 80%, I say 80% because the other 80% is the stuff that matters more or has a more powerful effect on attraction, is going to be your inner qualities, which means your behavior, the way that you behave, the way that you are acting when you're around a woman, your confidence, you being a challenge to a woman and not so easy to get, you understanding how to flirt and how to talk to her, you leading the interaction, and you enjoying the interaction. That's all behavior. I call that inner qualities. That's the way you act. So I guess my long-winded point here is if you want to work on this stuff and you want to be the most attractive person you can be, you got to work on all this stuff together. But what's cool is when you look better, when you optimize your outer qualities, you're just going to feel better, which is great. And you're going to be a better person for other people that you're around. And then same thing with your inner qualities when you're working on your behavior and you build more confidence. And that's going to help you with depression, anxiety, feeling lonely, right? Things like that. So you're inevitably going to be a stronger person in general. And all that stuff is what women are attracted to. And that's what they want. They want a guy who is secure in himself, who's effective at life, and this is more toward, let's say, outer qualities, has friends around him, has good relationships around him, and really just has his life together. A lot of guys don't. And I'm sitting here 10 years ago thinking, kind of like it all clicked. And I was like, I got to teach this to guys. Like this is easier said than done. Yeah, it all takes work and nothing's a quick fix, like we said earlier, but you could really work on this. And you could, if you're looking for a relationship or just whatever it is, you could get these results. Like this could happen for you. And that kind of motivated me to help guys. push it out there because I was like, wow, this is possible. And I know how I can deliver this. And then, that's where we are now.
Yeah. Tripp, you made a great point there, which I want to go into a little bit deeper. You mentioned that these external qualities are important, but the inner qualities are most important. I remember there being a phase at one point where I was doing all the right external things and I started feeling really good. I started seeing the results and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then I almost got to a point where it's like, if I did this though, with a girl who I really deeply really wanted to be with and really loved, like, would it be real for me? And would it be real for her? And I remember thinking that and going back and forth. And eventually I did just embody those qualities. And so whatever love I created from that space was authentic and real. But I think sometimes people have a concern or worry that if you're using techniques, that it wouldn't be real then, or it wouldn't it wouldn't be real. Could you speak more to that?
Yeah, it's a great question and thing to bring up too, because I hear that a lot from people who don't need this help, right? They're like, I don't get it. It sounds like it sounds like you're just faking it and it's not you. And the thing is sometimes you need training wheels.
Yeah.
Right? Like sometimes you need training wheels. Like you cannot overnight just become confident dude and just know it all. So there's some things that you might need as training wheels to just get you started and get you out there. And a little bit of fake it until you make it. I'm not saying you lie. Like there's no lines that I'd ever teach that. I mean, they can be lies, but I never encourage anyone to do that. But they're, just ways of speaking to women or things you say to open up conversation, to just start things and get things going. And there's no harm in that, right? And I always tell people too, who kind of look at dating coaching, like, what is going on here? Like, what is this? And it's like, listen, everyone deserves a shot at love, sex, and or relationship. I think everyone deserves that opportunity at least. And so if you have any other better ideas, please let me know, because I'd be open to sharing that with the guys. But most people don't. And of course they don't. They just haven't, it's not their fault. They just haven't put thought into it. But, be yourself doesn't work, not because being yourself doesn't attract women, but it's not very practical advice.
Right. I remember the first coach I ever hired, he put it to me a really good way. And it wasn't even, this was for sales. It wasn't even for relationships. He said, Jared, I know a part of you thinks right now, and he was great because he could read me really well. He's like, I know a part of you thinks right now that this isn't real to you, but what's our most authentic self is actually authored and created. And like the word authentic comes from the prefix auth, like it's the same prefix to create, author. And so the most authentic we actually could be is the personality or the being that we craft and create. And I think that's such a foreign concept to a lot of people in the West because we're so conditioned from birth, where I guess I have a pretty big Eastern background. Like their concept of self is like, yeah, you create it. Whoever you want to be, like you go out there and you do it. You put the work in, you put the effort and the energy in, and you create yourself. And I always like that definition because that's more like my authentic self is, it's like I would want my authentic self to be created. Like that's an awesome opportunity to know that you're not restricted by just, some inborn genetics or personality. Like even epigenetics right now is saying that what we call as junk DNA, when you have a certain experience in the environment, can activate that junk DNA, which can give you certain traits. And like, that's really exciting to me because it's a pretty hopeless situation if you think your personality can't be changed or you can't learn anything,
Right. And why? It doesn't have to be that way. It just doesn't.
Right. Yeah. There's so much more empowerment in that. I think that view where we see our authentic self as being authored or created from our environment and from putting in the work.
Absolutely. I agree. And, hopefully anyone who's watching and listening knows that they can do it too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tripp, what's your favorite part about doing this work? Like, what's the part that gets you really excited and like that aliveness? Because I know there's you're running a business, so there's like the everyday business stuff, but then there's also like being there for people, balancing relationships and tasks. And I have a background in executive coaching, and that's been crazy to see. Like, that's all business is balancing relationships and tasks. And I guess my question would be, what for you is the part that gives you the most excitement? Like that really, despite all the work that you have to do at the end of the day, by the end of it, you're like, this is sweet. Okay. I can continue. I can do this.
Yeah, I think it's when I'm doing my one-on-one coaching and I'm working with guys who are just really in it and they're excited about it and they want the change and then they get the change because they're doing the homework that I give them and the assignments, and that just like I said, I was just off a coaching call just now, and his last question was actually, so what do you think about how I'm doing? Like, how's it all going? Because we're about 6 sessions in, and I said, listen, man, he's a great client. He's doing everything I'm saying to do, which is what he hired me to help him with, and he's getting results from it, and he's so happy. And I'm happy, not that he's necessarily even getting results. I'm happy that he is putting the work in.
Right.
And he's doing it, and most of my clients do, but you get some people who just are making it a priority, and I get really excited when guys are excited about it, because I'm excited about it, right? This is what I talk about. This is what I do all day long. So to be with someone who wants to make change, it is that that excited energy transfers over to me and gets me all pumped up. So I love working with people who are just in it to win it, and when they're in that mindset, they end up winning and they get what they want out of life, and there's just nothing better than that, honestly.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. That's whenever you see the transformation process happen, and you can know like right off the first call if a person's really going to be there and they're going to do it. Like, if there's just that feeling like, okay, yeah, they're invested and they're gonna take this. Like, and the great thing is when they don't even know. Yeah, they're worried, and they're so worried that they're not going to be able to do it and create what they want. You're like, dude, you're fine. So that's good. That's good. What would you say, Tripp, for someone who's in a space where they're wanting to create that change in their relationship and they're learning the skills and they're applying it, but they're at a point where they're getting some results, but they're not getting the full results that they're actually looking for, and then they get demotivated? Like, I've seen some people, at least in my work, where they're in it, and for whatever reason, they don't have that resilience as much, like that bounce back. Like, okay, this didn't work. I'm just going to get back in the game. This didn't work. Like, how do you work with people in that manner when it might not happen the right way right off the bat? Because there's some clients that I'll get who they're excited, and then for whatever reason, they don't have that bounce back as much as some of the other ones.
Yeah, no, that's a tough situation. That's a really good question, actually. Is some people don't have that bounce back. I think we all have somewhat trouble with that. Some people more than others, so I can totally relate to that when my client is like that. And you just have to pound in their head and get them to understand the reality of what it takes to make a change. So the guys who are not making changes quick, it doesn't mean that the change isn't possible or the result isn't possible. It just means that your journey is going to take as long as it needs to take. And you got to remember that all this is hard work. Like, no matter what you're going to do to make a change, it's going to be hard work. Some people make quick changes, but no matter what you're trying to achieve, it does take work. And so
Mhm.
you got to remind yourself of that. You got to remind yourself of that combined with the concept of patience. Because
Mm.
if you don't have that, if you don't have the patience, you know, it's not going to happen anyways, right? So it's like you have a couple choices is do you want to just keep working at this or do you want to give up?
Mm.
Giving
Mhm.
up is going to be, where you're at now without the chance of actually succeeding. So I try to kind of use logic in a way and also try to remind them of the rewards and the benefits of once
Mhm.
you're there, you're going to be so happy that you got there. You're going to be so happy you didn't give up. Right? You're going to
Mhm.
be so happy that you finally got to that point and you got to keep going. And then once in a while, I'll tell them a story of an old client who, and this is a true story. I was working with him day in and day out for like 2 months and he was about to give up and he was literally on his last day of working together and he's like, I just want to give up. Like, I'm not seeing exactly what I wanted. I said, let's just give it your all and let's just keep going. Let's keep pushing, even though this is the last, one of the last days we're working together. And then he ended up meeting a girl who became his girlfriend for the next few years.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
great. Yeah.
so the lesson there is you don't know how far you are away from making a big change, you know.
Mhm.
And there's levels, like there's like, it keeps the new challenges keep on coming up. And I always remind the guys that look at what you've accomplished so far. Some guys forget. That's another thing too, is like, oh, I haven't got the results I wanted. It's like, have you realized how well you've actually done? When you
Yeah.
came to me, you couldn't even talk to a girl, and now you're approaching girls all the time, and you were so scared. We quickly forget how far we've come, and we only look at the new challenge in front of us.
Yeah.
Got to remind yourself of where you came from because that is the fuel or motivation to keep going. It's like there's always going to be a new challenge. Like you're always going to be in a new challenge until the day you die because eventually you're going to probably be in a relationship and there's sometimes that's people's goals. Well, there's challenges there and then
Mhm.
challenges in being in a longer relationship and challenges in having children. It's like it's never going to end. So look back at where you've come from and just focus on the main challenge now and just because you're not 10 steps ahead that doesn't mean that you're far behind.
Yeah, I love that. I was studying motivational schemes. I'm teaching a class on that actually, and motivational schemes and willpower. And all the research is saying that if we don't self-reflect back on the transformation that's already happened, we will burn out and we won't be able to get to that next level, whatever that level may be.
Exactly.
Like you'll
Exactly.
eventually just burn out, like the
Yeah.
wick will run.
That's why they say journaling is important because you're doing that. You're self reflecting every day. And then also you can actually go back into your old notes and see where you were and how far you've come. And that can give you more fuel.
Hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. Tripp, how would you say if how would you say the people that come into your work once they do get that relationship that they're looking for, they create the skill set, whatever it might be. I mean, some people it might just be, look, I just want to know to be able to have the confidence to talk to any girl, and like that's good. And then other people probably come to you for just, I just want a single relationship. Maybe some come like I want like 4 or 5 different girls for whatever reason. I've heard it all, but what do you think? What do you think at the core of everyone's external goal? What do you see that they're really looking for? Is there like one common underlying thread that you really see everyone's actually looking for? Like the goal, like I always like thinking about the goal or the desire behind the desire, or the goal behind the goal.
I don't necessarily, yes, I do have a deep answer for that, but it's nothing I really share with my clients because it doesn't mean anything to them in
Right.
that moment. It's just not where their head is at. But really, we're all looking for validation in some respect.
Mm,
And I think sometimes it takes a little external validation to feel internally validated. But
absolutely.
but but hopefully that internal validation lasts, and you can then take that and be like, and take that and give yourself your own internal validation. So what I'm saying here is you might feel crappy, low self-esteem, like a shitty person, unattractive. And then you might start getting attention from women and you're like, oh, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe I am a cool guy. Maybe, and then they're also accomplishing goals,
Mhm.
accomplishing the challenges that come along with approaching, and that stuff starts to build your self-esteem because of that's been proven to build self-esteem, accomplishing things. And that's all to just feel validated and feel good about yourself. As long
Mm.
as you don't hold on to that in a way where you're consistently trying to get external validation to feel good, because that is not sustainable. To
Right.
just continue to try to get it like you're trying to fill a bucket with water that has a hole in it. You'll never end up filling the bucket with water. That hole is the hole that is inside of yourself where you don't feel good about yourself. So you use external validation to feel better. But you know what? It doesn't hurt once in a while to just get a nice reaction from a girl. It just,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt. It can really boost your confidence a little bit. And then hopefully at the end of the day, remind yourself, you know what? I am awesome. Sometimes that, and I hope that's the realization from guys I work with or guys I don't work with who just watch the videos and things like that, is to realize, you are, as long as you're hopefully not a crappy person to people, you're a cool guy. You are a good person. It's and it's just more important that you see it rather than trying to get proof from other people. Like it should come from within. But once
Mm.
in a while, you can take a hack or use a hack and try to get it a little bit from meeting people, putting yourself out there, and just going through the process of meeting women. Some people, it's a little bit dangerous though, because some people get addicted to it and will
Right.
continuously approach, and sleep with this girl, sleep with that girl, and get into a relationship with this girl and that girl, only to find that they're completely using all of that to feel good about themselves. So at the
Right.
end of the day, I hope that, because it's really hard to sit there and kind of kumbaya spirituality, say things to yourself, mantras, to get yourself to feel good about who you are. It's like almost impossible. Like you need some sort of proof on some level.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm very deeply spiritual, but I'm also very grounded and practical. And I kind of went to both ends. I went to one far end and then went the other far end and then found somewhere in the middle. And I think sometimes people in the spiritual or communities, whatever you want to call it, the awakening communities, they might say, well, you should never need anything on the outside to validate yourself. And it's like, well, we are animals. And if you study, evolutionary psychology, like that's a part of our biology. We do need external proof and we do need to be validated. Like I remember at one point in my life where I used to think, it was more of a holier than thou attitude, but it was, I should never need any external proof ever again, like trying to be above it. And then it was like, well, that's bullshit because you're yeah, even if you are a spirit or a divine being or whatever you want to say, like you're still a human being. And so you got to honor both aspects of yourself. And I really think that's a much more grounded approach, as long as the external isn't what you're completely dependent upon, because that's doomed eventually to fade.
Right.
So I think it is. I think it's a healthy balance between the two.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. As long as you can find that. But yeah, I think the bigger thing too is just accomplishing goals is
Mhm.
really the best way to start feeling good about yourself and who you are. Like actually having a plan and achieving something that you're trying to set out to achieve. That's going to be one of the best ways to build confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's like you hit something at this level, and then if you want to, you can take it to the next level, uh, and you can keep going if you want to. I know for me, I've kind of tried to go up to too many levels too quickly and fell down. Then okay, I got to reassess, and that's a whole nother conversation. I think though. uh, Tripp, I'm going to ask them maybe like one or two more questions, and then are you cool if we go to the audience and if
Yeah,
anyone?
definitely. Happy to.
And guys, if you have any questions for Tripp, anything at all, please feel free to share, put up there in the comments section, and I'll get to those after I ask him a couple more questions here. So if you guys have anything, go for it. Tripp, what do you think would be the best advice that you could give someone who's maybe accomplished everything that they want to accomplish, but they're looking for that next level? And I know this isn't more, I guess, towards relationship. This is more just relationship to ourself. Like if
you mean in everything they've sat there, they've gone, I've done it all.
Well, let's say they've met a certain number of goals, and then they have to form new goals. Like what's the point? Because we can keep going and setting new goals, and I think that's important to always have new goals to set. But I know for me in my own journey, and for some individuals that I've coached in the past, it's like they get that new goal. And I think Tony Robbins talks about this a little bit. He says the worst is when you meet a goal and you finally get it, and then you realize where do you think that comes from? Like if a person hits that top of the pyramid, they get to where they want it to be, and then they're like, but I still don't feel what it was that I was looking to feel. I'm sure you've come across this.
That's interesting. I mean, I'd be curious to see what their goals are. You know what I mean? In terms of what it is that they were looking for, because they were probably looking at the goals to fulfill them in some way. You know, this is like almost like a psychological question. Like they were looking at these goals in a way to fulfill or fill a hole in something, you know, depending on what that was. So I would ask them to really dive deep and see what are they looking for, and what is it that would make them feel fulfilled. You know, it maybe just continuing, just accomplishing new goals on any level. It doesn't matter what it is, or building new skills might be something that they do forever, and that's great. Keep busy, do that. You know, I think, and this back to Tony Robbins, he says a lot about one of the best ways to achieve fulfillment and happiness is helping other people, right? So giving back, giving time to other people. I mean, it'd be great if you could do what we do. Is we do this for work, and it's giving other people. But I think the next level might be you're giving your time away to help those in need, and doing more, you know, charity work, or just trying to figure out other ways to give value to others who need it and might not be able to receive it. Maybe they don't have the funds, maybe they don't have the technology, whatever it is. So I would probably say to that person, even though I'm not really a life coach, I don't consider myself one, but just in my opinion here, probably to seek out, is there something you could do to help others with your time? Because that has been proven to make you feel pretty fulfilled and pretty good.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's more. It was more of a, I guess, a relationship to self question, but it's all the research says that when we're serving or helping other individuals out, we actually feel better. It's built into our biology because of tribal psychology and things like that.
Exactly. So ask yourself what you can do to help other people. It could be a friend too. Could be a friend, you know, someone who needs it. You know, not necessarily giving unsolicited help, but seeing where you can offer help or value to someone who needs it.
Beautiful. I'm going to go to Bonnie's question here. So Bonnie says, what or how do you get them to know this or see this? What works for you? I can give them encouragement, but what approach helps you most? I'm trying to think of maybe what she's referring to. So that came up about...
What or how do you get them to know this or see this?
So that came up about 4 minutes ago.
What works for you? I can give them encouragement, but what approach helps you most? Maybe it sounds like when they're not accomplishing what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that's it. Good call.
We're talking about that.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
so it's like, how would you get another person
one thing
motivated?
I try to like open them up to reality. So I kind of actually give them like a tough love. and say, okay, listen, let's live in reality for a moment. Okay. Reality is, in order to achieve X and Y goal, these things need to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We have to ask ourselves, did we do these things? And most of the time the answer is is no, because if you did, you would have achieved the goal.
Right.
I'm trying to think of an example. Let's say um, the guy is like, "Well, I haven't gotten a girl's number yet, and what the heck?" And I'd say, "Well, you probably haven't gotten a girl's number yet because you've only approached like one or two girls a week. When I told you that in order to do this, you're going to need to approach about 10 girls a week, because right now you're not used to approaching women. So we have to approach more and talk to more, or go on online dating apps and swipe more, or whatever it is. So usually they're not putting in the correct effort to get to the point where they're getting the result they want. So we have to kind of bring them back to reality and say, this is what it's going to take. And then bring them back to the reality of, listen, this is hard. This is not easy. If it was easy, you wouldn't be looking things up on YouTube, reading books, hiring a coach. Otherwise, right? If it was easy, we wouldn't be talking right now. I actually literally had to say that to a client recently. And that kind of motivated them in a way where it's like, oh, yeah, that's right. It's like a reminder. That's right. It's hard. Therefore, I need to continue to put the work in. My journey isn't over yet.
Right. That's why I need the support. That's why I'm here. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then motivate and say, listen, you could do it. I did it. Other clients have done it. Like, you got this. Look how far you've already come. Like, even if it was a little thing that they've done, it's
Mm-hmm.
like they've done it. Even them signing up, for example, to be a client, that's a big move. You're investing in yourself you're paying someone to put yourself through emotional pain.
Right.
Okay. I mean, of course, there's more to it than that. Like, you're going to be feeling good after doing it. But in the beginning, you're investing in getting called out and getting pushed and kind of beat up. But you need to
Right.
get beat up and go through it all to, to succeed and achieve the goals that you want.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I always say that coaching could probably be, depending on your skill level, but you're ultimately, it can be one of the hardest things to quote unquote sell. And when I say sell, I really just mean, sharing with a person what it is that they really want and being able to speak that for them and show them the steps to it.
Yes.
But yeah, yeah. Guys, what other questions do we have for Tripp here? And I'm going to ask another question if I don't see any come up, because it looks like we're moving a little slower here today. So Tripp, what would you, if someone's at the point where they've learned this new skill to create relationship, because ultimately that's what this is as well too, is you're teaching people how to create relationship. At least that's how I see it. I could be wrong in that, but can you apply it in other areas of life as well, like the skills that you're teaching individuals?
Well, I mean, it kind of been based off of what we've been saying. You can, because you're learning about how to achieve goals, and you're learning work ethic, and you're learning how to be persistent and to be patient through change. That
Mm-hmm.
applies to anything that you're doing, really.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, why guys end up trying to do more after they accomplish this, because it's as if on a deeper level they understand that they've been able to accomplish those things, not accomplish necessarily getting girls or getting laid, but they're accomplishing the feat to get to the goal.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like they have a newfound confidence that they can accomplish something, and that they can achieve something, and they can build a skill or get a result in another area.
Mm,
Does that make
yeah.
sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It's just learning to have the confidence that if you put the effort and energy in, you can create it out there in the world.
Right.
And it's just whether you're willing to put the effort and energy in.
Yeah. How bad do you want it? That's another thing I always ask people is how bad do you want it? If you don't want it that bad, you're not going to get it because you're not going to put the work in toward it. But if you really want it bad, then you will put the work in and you'll hopefully get it. I mean, I think with enough work, anyone can really accomplish what they want to do.
Absolutely. Do you think that
How bad you want it?
Right. Tripp, do you think that's something that this is just a personal thing that I always think about? And I've asked my coaches this do you think that's something that can be created, like desire or want for something?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think it's more. That's a good question. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know either, man. Like that's totally.
It's a deep question. Can you even feel like? I mean, I think the only way you could do it is like persuasion, right? So you can persuade someone and say, like, look at your life, like, look at this area, like this sucks. Like, do you really want to continue living like this?
Right.
Positive in a way motivation, so saying if you don't get what you want here, then this negative thing is going to happen. And then also, if you do get what you want, imagine how that's going to feel.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say probably persuasion and using some of those, those ideas in terms of showing them the both, I guess, simply pros and cons. But if they deep, on a deep level, like they don't want it, or even if they're simply just lazy to do something, they don't really care.
Right. Right.
Like if you're too lazy to go to the gym or work on your finances or meet a girl, you care, but not enough, or else you would do something. If I put a burning coal in your hand, you're going to throw that off your hand as fast as possible, right?
Right.
That's pretty painful. You're not going to want that in your hand anymore. So you're going to take action. Or let's say I I don't know, had a gun to your head and I said, answer this question, whatever it may be. You have 30 minutes to figure out the answer and you're going to die. This is an extreme example, but you're going to figure that out because you don't want to die. You truly don't want to die. Right?
Yeah.
So it depends on how bad you really want it. I mean, listen, some people, it's tough because there's mental illnesses, right? You might not be able to be capable of something because there's a chemical imbalance in your head and you're depressed or you have anxiety and it's like you do want it, but you can't, you don't have the tools to get over whatever's going on inside of your head,
Mm-hmm.
And just interesting, TJ said, I will pray the pain away. And listen, I'm not gonna share my religious beliefs because it doesn't matter. But I will say that, that doesn't work. You can't sit in a room and just hope for something. Like you will need to do something.
Yeah.
Like there's just so much proof in that. Like you have to do something. If you want, you can pray and do something, but doing nothing, it won't get you anywhere. It just won't.
And I think like it kind of comes back to the question, like pain is a great motivator. Like I know for me, when I put myself in a room and I stopped like distracting myself with everything else and I felt the internal pain, whatever I was going through, whether it was, whatever was happening in my life at that point, it made me think like, okay, this pain sucks. What did I do to get in this pain and what do I need to do to get out of it? Because like we acted into it some way. And so there's a way to act out of it. So I think I love that, man. I think it's
sometimes
important.
You have to go to rock bottom. That's another thing too. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom. For some people, it's going to take extreme external circumstances to happen to you. A loss of a friend, a family member, a really terrible financial situation happening to you, getting fired, I don't know, something happening to your health and having to go to the hospital. Like I'm talking about extreme things might have to happen to get you to that point. And let's hope that never happens and you can get enough motivation and willpower to fix things before it gets to that point. But sometimes that's the what has to happen. I mean, for a lot of like drug addicts and things like that, like they have to hit some serious rock bottom to
Mhm.
make change. They have to be like have an overdose or lose members of a family who don't want to speak to them anymore, whatever it may be. So maybe that can be your
A motivator.
the negative motivator. Like you don't want that to happen. Okay.
Right.
Do you want to make the change now, or do you want to wait till things are really bad?
Right. Right. And I think that, yeah, I love that. I love that. I think the cool thing to recognize is like those things are probably going to happen anyway. Like I've lost friends and family members, and I mean, there's certain situations, but like, why not just try to live the best life that you can right now?
Yeah.
Like, why not just try to go all out? Like, what do you have to lose? And if you lose it all, like at least you went for it. And there's always ways to build it back up. I mean, I've got lots of money. I've lost lots of money. I've done pretty much everything. And like, it just makes you more fearless in the end of the day. And like, why wouldn't you want to live from that space?
Yeah.
Tripp, I'm going to go to Gina's question here. Are you still good with maybe one or two more questions if they come up?
Yeah. I have a few more minutes.
Cool,
Absolutely.
man. So I'll just go to Gina's question. She says, in relationship, how can men feel love/respect from women with respecting each other's value as a person? So in
Well,
relationship.
doesn't that go hand in hand? I'm kind of confused about the question. How
Yeah.
can men feel love and respect from women with respecting? I mean, I would imagine that is there may be. I think she has maybe. If you're still around, maybe be more specific. There might be. It sounds like you're in a situation where you want to bring something up. I think we need some more specificity here. But how can men feel love and respect from a woman with respecting each other's values as a person? Yeah, I'm just a little confused on exactly what the question is here.
Yeah. Let me try
Yeah,
to
the idea is shared.
feel this out. How can men feel love/respect from women with respecting each other's value as a person? If I had to guess, it sounds like, Gina, if you could rephrase that, that would be wonderful. But I'm going to take a shot in the dark here because I'm feeling it out. If I had to guess, I think she's asking, it looks like she's in a situation where she's not getting respect, but she wants to feel respect from that other person. It sounds like a very toxic situation,
Yeah,
actually.
good thought there.
I think, okay, yeah, here we go. So Gina says, men have told me that I disrespect from me. Men have told me that they feel disrespected toward. I'm just going to go with my initial one on that, Gina. I think if I had to guess, I think she's in a toxic relationship and she's not feeling respected, or other men aren't feeling like she's respectful to them. And so she wants to create a relationship of admiration and respect.
Usually, I would say so. Here's my answer, even though I don't know exactly the question, but I think I have an idea of maybe a thought here would be empathy. Usually, it starts with empathy. When you don't so empathy means like understanding how a person's feeling. So usually people feel disrespected, and usually disrespect shows its face when the other person isn't understanding how they're feeling.
Yeah.
So they're doing something or taking some sort of action that's being disrespectful. So my guess is, Gina, either you're not empathizing in your relationships or your partners aren't empathizing with you, meaning you're not coming from, okay, before I yell at this person or argue with this person or say something to this person, let me just see, like, where are they right now and how are they feeling? So you can understand how to approach a situation that's going to communicate what you're feeling and not necessarily disrespect the other person. It's a very, very advanced move, but important in all relationships, friendships, business relationships. I mean, everything.
That's great. I love that. Yeah, it sounds like it's a communication issue. Asking for your needs to be met without coming across as an asshole,
Yeah.
which I've been guilty. We've all been guilty of it, Gina. So there's no judgments there at all. It's just that's a part of it. It's a part of the learning process for sure. Beautiful. Tripp, thanks so much for coming on, man. We really appreciate your time. We appreciate your energy. It really means a lot to the community that you were willing to do this. If you had one thing, like let's say that today was your last day, you were going to cut out or whatever was going to happen, what's the last thing that you would say to humanity? What's the last thing what would be your last message to the world?
Oh my God. That's a great question.
I always finish interviews on this one.
Oh my gosh. So much pressure to come up with,
Take your time, man. There's
what's the last thing? I'm trying to think of like all my wisdom summed up in 35 years on this earth.
Right.
Oh, whoa, geez. I think I would say something to the extent of the past is the past, and even though you might have made mistakes or aren't happy with your past, you can always do something now to make a change and work on your future in terms of being happy. It's never too late.
That's great. I love it.
That's what comes to mind.
Beautiful. Awesome. I love it. Tripp, thanks so much for taking the time on, man. Do you have any programs or where can people contact you?
Yeah, I would say come over to trippadvice.com and there's all my links are there. If you want to check out my YouTube channel, you want to link to my podcast, you want to check out my book or my program, it's all information's right there and right at the top. So go to trippadvice.com with 2 P's and you can find more ways to get information from me.
Awesome. And guys, if you want to check out, those links are right there below in the YouTube description box. You can just check that out. Tripp, thanks a lot for coming on, man. We really appreciate it. It's been an honor. It's been really enjoyable. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.